Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order, October 28th, 11 a.m. We'll start with roll call. City of Arcata.
Here.
Blue Lake. Not present. Eureka, here. Ferndale. Not present. Fortuna.
Here.
Rio Dell.
Here.
Trinidad.
Here.
County of Humboldt.
Here.
Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to our meeting minutes from April 22nd. Does anyone have any corrections or comments? Okay, seeing none, we can open for public comment. Anyone on Zoom? Okay, seeing none, we can open it up for a motion.
Move we propose the April 22nd minutes.
You have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll vote. Arcata?
If it doesn't work for them, that's fine. Don't want them automatic.
Yes.
Thank you. Blue Lake not present. Eureka, yes. Ferndale not present. Fortuna?
Yes.
Rio Dell?
Yes.
Trinidad?
Yes.
County of Humboldt?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. We will move on to our jurisdiction representative reports. Would anybody like to kick us off? Okay, Rio Dell?
Rio Dell started off. We did recently enter into an agreement with Agriman for compost procurement related to Rio Dell's requirements under SB 1383. So we should be good for 2024 and beyond. It is a cancelable arrangement as the regional solution comes on board over the coming future. And then we're also working with Gallagher, as many of the other jurisdictions are on our franchise agreement negotiations. Other than that, I don't have any other major updates.
I'm actually curious to hear more about this procurement company. How does that work?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely a possibility for any of the jurisdictions to enter into. It's relatively cost effective when we looked into trying to truck material back from the Ukiah area into Humboldt County. It didn't really math out. And so, but you're not required to distribute the material back in the, originating jurisdiction. Of course, Rio Dell has a waiver from SB 1383, so we don't actually produce material, but we are required to secure the material. And so Agriman is mostly based in Southern California, near major agricultural producers in the Central Valley. And so they have easy access to farm distribution, major distribution points for this material. They'll do all of the paperwork for us, basically everything for a fraction of the cost. So this idea came about really working with Cal Recycle. They did a round, as I'm sure everybody here is aware, recently, and one of the points of non-compliance for Rio Dell was compost procurement. So we have that wrapped up for 24, so it should be good the next time our electronic annual report comes around, which is awesome. I'm looking forward to it and happy to report back on anything else that we experience in that process. I think just SB 1383, the way it is worked out, it's going to be a real uphill battle for Humboldt County to have its own compost processing center and distribution center up here. It really, when you look at like cities the size of Los Angeles versus all the cities combined in Humboldt County and the county, it's just very hard to do. I think it's a major uphill battle. And unfortunately, this turns into sort of a for us, the cheapest, easiest compliance solution ends up being a little bit of a subsidy for farms in the southern central valley of California. It's just the way that it works. So that's sort of my 2 cents on it.
Thank you. How do you spell agromin?
AGROMIN.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious.
There's
to look into it.
there's another firm also that has a competitive rates that I can forward to you.
Thank you, Kyle.
Do you know, what are you paying
It's like $2,800 a year.
for how much?
So so we have to acquire about 100 tons annually.
That's pretty good.
So
Would anyone else like to go next on our report?
Yeah, about the only thing I have to report is City of Fortuna has been working on franchise agreement with Recology. Our last meeting was postponed because of our request for information. They needed time to get that together, so we have an upcoming meeting.
Okay. Have you done any compost procurement this year?
We do our own compost.
Oh, that counts.
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
Nice.
so far.
Tom, you want to go?
Similar, we're still negotiating with our franchise agreement. We have not done any compost procurement as of yet. Amar, do you have anything to add for the county? Okay.
All right, I'll go next for Eureka. We continue to negotiate with Recology for new services. We don't have a consensus yet on that. We have been procuring compost. We were able to purchase 2 22-ton loads from Cold Creek and Ukiah. And then we distributed that out of a city parking lot, and people came and picked it up themselves. And I don't think it lasted longer than 2 days either time. And 22 tons is a lot, but it's a drop in the bucket for what Eureka is supposed to procure. I think we're supposed to procure about 1,000 tons a year. But that's gone well. But since we don't have any cover, we'll be done until it dries up next year. But the Cow Recycle Assistance Grant has been really helpful in funding that because we did budget to do those activities. So that was successful. And other than that, not related to SB 1383, I did just want to put words to it's almost the holiday season. And historically, some of us have all pitched in on a radio ad campaign to reduce holiday waste. So curious if folks want to do that again, and we could talk budget offline. But Eureka would certainly like to redistribute that campaign in whatever capacity we're able to. So,
County would be in on that.
okay, thank you.
same with Rio Del.
Thank you.
I'll jump in next for City of Arcata. Yes, we would definitely be interested in teaming up on holiday waste. I guess kind of in a similar vein, we just started our typical outreach around back to school, move-in in Arcata for new students coming to the university, as well as some of the Halloween low waste tips. We've continued negotiations with Recology similar to similar to Eureka and the county. Edible food recovery regional partnership efforts continue, and we similarly have been struggling with procurement. We do produce our own compost to a degree, but similar with Eureka, we've got a pretty high tonnage target, and we haven't yet. We did hear the resources from Cal Recycle around Agromin and some of the other companies as far as the, for lack of a better term, subsidizing out of area composters and getting those to large scale ag producers. So that's super helpful to hear that Rio Del has had some success and that it has proven to be somewhat affordable, because we were skeptical at first glance. So that's encouraging.
Trinidad, we have extended our agreement with Humboldt Sanitation by 5 years. And we also have used some Cal Recycling grant funds to purchase containers that can be used for composting and collecting the raw materials.
How many customers do you serve in Trinidad?
I think it's around 225.
That's a good number.
Yeah. it's manageable.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else under reports? Okay. So we can go ahead and move on. We do have a standing item for Hambro to provide us CRV buyback updates. I'm not sure if we have anybody from Hambro on the Zoom. I don't see their name on the top. Oh, they are? Okay. Oh, yeah, there they are. Oh, thank you. You guys can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Hambro. So just to report on the buyback centers in Humboldt County, Willow Creek and Redway, Fortuna, and Arcata are all doing well. As long as this weather holds out, we'll continue doing well. The big news from us today is we are set to open up Eureka's buyback center. And we're targeting December 3rd. It'll be the first work day in December for our schedule. We'll be open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 5. And we'll be at Redwood Acres Fairgrounds parking lot. And one of the lots behind it is on Harris Street. So we're real excited. It was been kind of a up and down challenge to get this thing open, but working with the fairgrounds, we're able to open in December. So
That's great news. Thank you guys so much. Any other comments or discussion on CRV redemption? Okay. Do we have anybody from Recology on Zoom? We do have a standing item for them to provide updates. Okay. Oh, perfect. I can see the list. Okay. I don't recognize any names from Recology. So we can go ahead and move on. Next, we do have our SB 1383 standing update. And first, we have our regional food recovery manager. And we've actually invited Lisa from Abound, who we're all contracted with, to provide us an update. So, Lisa, you're welcome to take it over.
Awesome. Thank you, Robin. I'm going to attempt, oh, I don't have screen sharing.
Derek can allow that for you. He's on the tech end.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. I just have a super.
Oh, sorry. Lisa can do that.
Thank you.
And Lisa, sometimes multiple people is what does it for me on my Zoom. I don't know why. So try clicking that.
Okay.
Sorry, other Lisa. I'm sorry. We have a Lisa Mash. I should have
She
clarified.
gave me the power. Lisa
Okay.
versus Lisa.
Yeah.
This. Thank you. Okay. I'll put this into slide mode real quick. So I just have a couple quick slides because I think it's easier to see some of the numbers on slides. But we've had the honor of working with representatives from each of your jurisdictions over the last little over a year now in total. And so I wanted to give some updates on what we've been doing and where we hope to go next. So first of all, I just wanted to give an overview of sort of the different prongs of the ongoing compliance support. So we've been supporting edible food generators through a compliance survey, various types of education and outreach, and implementation assistance to help them find a donation partner. Working directly with the food recovery organizations on engagement and education, and also completed a survey of their needs and capacity, and we'll share a couple highlights from that. And working on the record keeping and reporting, including completion of the capacity study, preparation of the food recovery aspects of the implementation record and EAR data, and created some program procedure reports so that someday others can take it over, or you all can carry on the approaches individually. So the results of our capacity study this year were actually very, very interesting. What this chart represents is what we submitted to CalRecycle. There is technically enough capacity available for the edible food generated across the region. I think the nuance, and we'll dive into this a little bit, is it exactly in the right location? So although no additional capacity is needed from the results of this study, that doesn't mean we have 100% compliance yet, but there's a lot of opportunity to get there. So to get this data, as I mentioned, we did a survey of all the edible food generators, called them over the phone, and conducted a pretty in-depth survey, analyzed the results, and classified them in a few more ways than just compliant or not compliant. We also considered partially compliant in that they are participating in a program and maybe don't have their record logs up to par, or were awaiting execution of a contract with Food for People, who recently informed me they have officially completed contracts with all of their partner generators, which was a huge achievement. And then we had a few that are unsure because they weren't responsive to multiple attempts. So we considered unsure to be technically non-compliant until proven otherwise through inspections. But I'll show you some of the results. So currently the tier 1 compliance is actually looking really good. As far as officially compliant versus partially compliant, as I mentioned, in the last 2 weeks, these numbers will have changed a little bit, and we don't have that reflected here. This data is as of June, but those partially compliant generators are now moving into fully compliant with the contract executions from Food for People. So this is really fantastic as far as tier 1 compliance stands. And then with tier 2 compliance, we've got a little bit more variety here, and I can speak on a majority of the tier 2 generators that are not yet compliant are schools and a handful of restaurants. So that's where this data stands, but pretty interesting. And Catherine's on this call, and we've talked about this a bit too, some of the challenges that schools are facing in finding donation solutions. So we log them as they're not unengaged or unwilling to participate. They just need some assistance with finding the right solution with what they have to donate. And then I have 2 interesting tidbits from the Food Recovery Organization survey. This represents what organizations said they need to continue to support their operations or expand into that available capacity. And I'll dive into the supplies and materials a little bit. But other than that, the top requests were for more drivers, scales, or refrigerators and freezers. And I heard that through a jurisdiction's local assistance grant, we might have some access to some scales here in the next month or 2, which would be an incredible asset to get to share. And then, as always, refrigeration, cold storage capacity is a need. And then diving in a bit into the supplies and materials that they explained that they need, a lot of it is ongoing support materials like bags, baskets, containers, things of that nature. But there were also a few equipment requests like pallet jacks, forklift, more shelving racks, but across the board, fairly manageable in what the requests are. Nobody asked us for an entirely new building, which is good news. But these are just some things that can help support the network and get to that 100% compliance by supporting these organizations. And some opportunities for next steps, and I apologize for the small text, but I will read it, we grouped it into 3 different kinds of categories. So for compliance solutions and focusing in with the partially compliant, non-compliant, or unresponsive generators, we had some great conversations with Food for People, as well as some of their partner agencies and a few outside of it that explained it would be really helpful to map and analyze where the non-compliant generators are compared to the nearest froze in their distribution sites, and what assets might be available to establish, additional distribution sites, or for schools in some cases, like on-site compliance opportunities. Many of the organizations we talked to are really struggling with waste reduction or waste collection services. So I think there's some really interesting opportunities to look at that in comparison with the local composting hub programs, and some other very Humboldt contextualized solutions to assist these froze in finding something near them that doesn't feel so burdensome. As always, on-call compliance support for any of the generators and food recovery orgs, and some really interesting ideas for pilot programs with schools to find solutions, especially when they're in a more rural area and don't have access to a recovery org, looking at on-site management or donating directly to individuals in the communities. And then continuing to work on inspection coordination and record keeping in collaboration with Ben and his team to provide follow-up outreach and implementation assistance based on inspections, and to continue to keep the implementation record up to date. And then we've also are working on proposing some optional support should anyone be interested of us participating in the community health assessment and tying in food recovery to food access in the regions, and tailoring education and outreach based both on those findings and more detailed specific food safety recommendations. Like for example, having a bit more detailed guidance about what truly is and isn't donatable from a large event. And that is my presentation. Thanks for bearing with me and text heavy slides, but does anyone have any questions?
Lisa, this is Mario at DEH. How's my audio? Can you pick me up?
Yep, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thanks for that presentation. I'm excited to see the inspection coordination as part of that presentation. And I wanted to share with the group that I have really close to getting our DEH MOU to offer cities environmental health services. That was on the Board of Supervisors agenda last week, and we did get some feedback related to some components of the template. So we're making changes to modify that and try and find a more acceptable contract, and hope to be back to the board soon. And part of that contract will offer these inspection services on behalf of cities. A couple other things that we need to do is make sure we have a mandate for operators to register with environmental health, and we need that in Humboldt County Code in the solid waste section that applies to edible food recovery, tier 1 and tier 2, so that we have that authority to motivate folks to get registered with us to provide that service. So cities may have to do that too, even after we get the MOU. So that's something that city managers and city staff should be thinking about. Where is the mandate for operators to connect, and the language? If you'd like to coordinate with me, feel free to reach out to me directly to develop some sort of language that is amenable to cities and to DEH. The other thing is, I'm happy to see that the community health assessment is mentioned in your report, and would love to talk to you offline about that. So thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Mario. It's an awesome update.
So I also have a question. When you talk about cold storage needs, is that permanent cold storage, or is that like trucks?
In this case, it's permanent cold storage,
Okay.
like refrigerators and freezers.
Okay.
Any other questions for Lisa? Okay, thanks for joining us, Lisa. We appreciate it. And then I had a quick update on edible food recovery with Mario's comments. The City of Eureka is in process of an ordinance update for authorizing environmental health to perform those inspections. So we're having our second reading next week. And then pending the MOU, we should be set up for the county to offer those inspection services. So happy to share my ordinance language with you. I know Mario had some, so. Okay, under this section, we do just have general SB 1383 discussion or updates. Was there any other topics that maybe anyone missed in their jurisdiction report they wanted to mention? Okay, well, we can go ahead and move on. Our next section is for reports from non-members. We do have a section for HWMA. I'm not sure if anybody's on the line. I think Eric, the director, mentioned he was out today. Oh, I do see Carlos is here. I don't know if Carlos wanted to speak at all. Okay. Okay, thank you, Carlos. And again, I did not see anyone from Recology on the line, so we can go ahead and skip. Zero Waste Humboldt also has a spot on here. I'm not sure that we have anybody from there today. We do have Patrick from the LEA here if he had any updates.
Nothing to report.
Okay. And lastly, Cow Recycle, if you would like to provide any updates today.
They have not given me any specific updates to share with you, but I'm very happy to hear that Rio Del had a decent experience working with Agriman and that things seem to be progressing nicely. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything.
Thank you. Okay, our next section is proposed future tasks/actions. I know for myself, we need to do elections again, so we can do that in the April meeting, because reminder, we did go down to twice a year meetings that occur in April and October. So I've made a note for myself to add that to the agenda in April. Does anyone else have any other hot topics they'd like to see on future agendas? Okay. Lastly, we have a time for public comment for anything that is not agendized. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Start with in person. Okay, seeing none. Anyone on Zoom? Okay, see none. So that adjourns this meeting at 11:26 a.m. Thank you.